The screen door slammed shut, a sharp punctuation mark on Celine's breezy farewell. "Don't wait up, Mom," she called over her shoulder, her voice already tinged with the excitement of their upcoming trip. Evan, trailing behind with a suitcase that looked suspiciously like one of mine, offered a more subdued, "See you later." He didn't meet my eyes. "We'll send postcards," Seline added, her laughter echoing across the porch as they piled into Evan's aging sedan. "From Italy, Italy." They were going to Italy, while I stayed here, tending to the farm, the house, everything they seemed to take for granted. I watched their car disappear down the dusty lane, a plume of red dirt rising in its wake, and a tight knot formed in my stomach. It wasn't just Italy, of course. It was the casual disregard, the assumption that everything would be here, waiting for them, just as they'd left it, when they decided to grace me with their presence again. I turned back to the porch swing, its rhythmic creak a familiar comfort. The farmhouse stood silent now, a stark contrast to the flurry of activity that had preceded their departure. Seline had flitted round like a hummingbird, packing and repacking, demanding this and that from Evan, who had complied with a weariness I knew all too well. She'd barely acknowledged my presence, except to ask where the good towels were and if I could water her ferns while they were gone. "They're so temperamental, you know," she'd said, as if I, after decades of nurturing this land, wouldn't understand the delicate balance of life and growth. "Don't worry, dear," I'd replied, my voice even and steady. "They'll be fine. Just like everything else would be fine. Just like the farm would continue to yield its bounty. The sun would rise and set. The seasons would turn, all regardless of their whirlwind trip to Europe." They thought they were escaping, leaving me behind in the dust of their grand adventure. But they didn't understand. They didn't see the quiet strength that held this place together, the deep roots that nourished it, the same roots that had nurtured them, despite their apparent obliviousness. I reached for the lemonade I'd poured before their departure, the ice clinking softly in the glass. It had grown lukewarm in the late summer heat, much like my initial irritation. Now a different kind of coolness settled within me, a calm resolve. They wanted a vacation. Fine. Let them have their Italian escapade. Let them indulge in their fleeting fantasies of carefree spending. They'd be back. They always came back. And when they did, things would be different. The afternoon stretched into evening, the long shadows of the trees painting the fields in hues of gold and purple. I spent the hours tending to the garden, the familiar routine a balm to my unsettled thoughts. The tomatoes were heavy on the vine, their vibrant red skins glistening in the fading light. I picked a few, their earthy scent filling the air, and imagined the rich, tangy sauce they would make, a sauce I wouldn't be sharing with Evan and Seline. As the first stars began to prick the darkening sky, I went inside, the stillness of the house amplifying the quiet hum of my plan. I opened the antique desk in the study, its drawers filled with documents, deeds, and the carefully curated history of generations. My fingers traced the embossed lettering on a particular file, a small, almost imperceptible smile playing on my lips. They thought they knew the extent of my resources, the limits of my control. They thought they had me figured out. They were so young, so naive. They didn't understand the power of patience, the quiet accumulation of knowledge, The subtle art of planning. I pulled out the file, its contents rustling softly in the stillness of the room. Inside were the meticulously documented records of every transaction, every withdrawal, every indulgence Evan had enjoyed at my expense since he'd turned 18. There were the college tuition payments, the down payment on his first and quickly repossessed car, the endless stream of loans he'd never bothered to repay. And then, of course, there were the credit cards, the cards I'd opened in his name, the cards he believed were a testament to his own financial prowess, the cards I still controlled. I reached for the phone, its sleek surface reflecting the faint glow of the desk lamp. A single call, a few quiet words, and the illusion of their independence would shatter. Their Roman holiday would come to an abrupt and unceremonious end. They'd learn a valuable lesson about the true meaning of wealth, the precariousness of assumed privilege, and the enduring power of a mother's watchful eye. I dialed the number, the ringing tone a prelude to the symphony of consequences that was about to unfold. "Hello, this is Mrs. Ellsworth," I said, my voice calm and measured. "I need to make some adjustments to my son's account." The representative on the other end of the line began to speak, but I cut him short. Specifically, I continued, "I need to freeze his credit cards. All of them." The silence that followed was pregnant with unspoken questions, with the faint stirrings of unease. I could almost hear the gears turning, the realization dawning that the game had changed, and I, the quiet, unassuming woman they'd left behind in the dust of their grand adventure. I held all the cards, literally. The representative stammered something about needing verification, about security protocols. I provided the necessary information, my voice unwavering, each syllable a subtle reminder of the power I held, the power they had so carelessly underestimated. "Effective immediately," I said, concluding the call, a sense of quiet satisfaction settling over me like a warm blanket. Their little Roman holiday was about to become a lot less Roman and a lot more humbling. And that was just the beginning. Rain lashed against the study window, mirroring the turmoil churning inside me. I picked up the heavy, leather-bound ledger again, its gold lettering glinting in the dim lamplight. My fingers traced the embossed words. Family Trust Amendment 1998. I'd almost forgotten about this document, tucked away in the back of the safe. Branwell, my late husband's meticulous lawyer, had insisted on it, a safeguard, he'd called it. Just in case, he'd said with a knowing look. Life can be unpredictable. How right he was. Just a week ago, Evan, my own son, had dismissed my concerns about his spending habits. "Mom, you worry too much," he'd scoffed. "We're just enjoying ourselves. It's your money, after all." He and Seline had then promptly departed for their extravagant European vacation, leaving a trail of unpaid bills and a simmering resentment in their wake. The house felt strangely empty without their constant chatter and demands, but the quiet allowed a cold clarity to settle in. I opened the ledger, each page a testament to Branwell's foresight. He knew Evan. He knew me. He'd anticipated this very scenario. My eyes scanned the legal jargon, each clause a potential lifeline. The grantor reserves the right to amend or revoke access to designated assets in the event of mismanagement or irresponsible expenditure. My heart quickened. There it was, clear as day. A way out. a way to reclaim what was rightfully mine. I poured myself a glass of sherry, the amber liquid swirling in the crystal, a stark contrast to the storm raging outside. The phone rang, jarring me from my thoughts. It was Eleanor, Celine's mother. "Have you heard from Seline?" she asked, her voice laced with anxiety. "They haven't called in days." I took a slow sip of sherry, the warmth spreading through me. "No," I replied calmly. "I haven't heard from them. Perhaps they're just enjoying themselves too much to call." Eleanor's nervous laughter crackled through the receiver. "I suppose," she said, but the doubt in her voice was palpable. They were so excited about this trip. Celine's always wanted to visit Italy. "Italy is lovely this time of year," I agreed, a faint smile playing on my lips. I ended the call, a quiet resolve solidifying within me. I reached for the phone again, this time dialing Branwell's successor, a young, sharp lawyer named Miss Croft. "Miss Croft." "It's Mrs. Everly," I said. "I need to discuss a clause in my family trust. Amendment 1998, to be precise." Miss Croft's voice was brisk and professional. "Of course, Mrs. Everly. I have the document on file. How can I assist you?" I explained the situation, the unchecked spending, Evan's dismissive attitude, my desire to revoke his access to the accounts. Ms. Croft listened attentively, occasionally interjecting with clarifying questions. "I understand your concerns, Mrs. Everly," she said finally. "And yes, you are within your rights to invoke this clause. It will require some paperwork, of course, but I can begin the process immediately." "Excellent," I replied, a sense of satisfaction washing over me. "Please proceed as quickly as possible." I spent the rest of the day reviewing the trust documents, making notes, and contacting my financial advisor. The farm stretched out beyond the study window, a testament to generations of careful stewardship. Evan had never appreciated the land, the legacy. He saw it only as a source of income, a bottomless well to fund his frivolous pursuits. This had to stop. As dusk settled, the rain finally subsided, leaving a shimmering stillness in its wake. The phone rang again. This time, it was Evan. His voice was frantic. "Mom, what's going on? Our credit cards are declined. We're stranded in Rome. Seline is furious." I listened to his rant, his accusations, his demands, without interruption. When he finally paused for breath, I spoke, my voice calm and measured. "Evan," I said, "I'm invoking Amendment 1998 of the Family Trust. Your access to my accounts has been revoked." Silence hung heavy in the air, broken only by Evan's ragged breathing. "What?" he finally stammered. "What are you talking about?" I explained the situation, the clause, the consequences of his actions. He erupted again, his voice rising in disbelief and anger. "You can't do this. We're your family, precisely." I replied, my voice unwavering, "and I'm protecting what's ours. The farm, the land, the legacy. These things are more important than a shopping spree in Rome." Evan continued to plead, to threaten, but I remained firm. The conversation ended with a click, the sound echoing the finality of my decision. I stood by the window, looking out at the moonlit fields, a sense of peace settling over me. This wasn't about revenge, not entirely. It was about responsibility, about safeguarding the future, and about a mother's love, tough and unwavering, even when it hurts. There was a knock at the door. It was Martha, the housekeeper, with a telegram. I opened it, my hands trembling slightly. It was from Laurel, a young woman I'd met recently, a historian with a passion for preserving local heritage. Arrive safely, the telegram read. Looking forward to discussing the future of Everleigh Farm. A slow smile spread across my face. The future. It was in good hands now. The farmhouse kitchen felt colder than usual that morning, the sun struggling to pierce the early mist clinging to the fields. My phone buzzed, an insistent trill that cut through the quiet. "Evan," I murmured, already bracing myself. He'd only been gone a week, but I knew this call wouldn't be filled with vacation stories. "Mother," he began, his voice tight with a tension I recognized. "There's a problem with the cards. They aren't working." I took a slow sip of my tea, the chamomile doing little to soothe the knot forming in my stomach. "Oh," I replied, feigning ignorance. "That's odd. Are you sure?" "Yes, I'm sure. We tried to check out of the hotel, and they declined." "Seline is furious. What's going on?" I could almost picture him, pacing in some opulent hotel lobby, phone clutched in his hand, Seline no doubt fuming beside him. "Well, dear," I said, keeping my voice even, "perhaps you overspent. You know, those island resorts can be quite pricey." "Overspent?" he practically shrieked. "We haven't even done half the things Seline wanted. How could we have overspent?" I sighed, a practiced sound of maternal exasperation. "Evan, I've told you before about budgeting. It's important to live within one's means." He sputtered, something about unfairness and promises. I listened patiently, letting him vent his frustrations. "I'll look into it," I finally said, once his tirade began to wind down. "But for now, I'm afraid I can't offer any immediate solutions." He tried to argue, to plead, but I held firm. "I have some things to attend to here, Evan. I'll call you back later." I hung up before he could protest further, the silence of the kitchen settling back around me, heavy and still. The knot in my stomach had loosened, replaced by a quiet resolve. It was time. I walked to the window, gazing out at the rolling fields, the land that had been in my family for generations, land that Evan, in his recklessness, had taken for granted. He'd assumed it would all be his someday, that he could continue to live off my generosity without consequence. He'd been wrong. The phone rang again, a different ringtone this time. "Laurel," I answered, my voice regaining its warmth. "How are you, dear?" "I'm well, thank you. I just wanted to confirm our meeting with Branwell tomorrow. Is 10 o'clock still good for you?" 10 o'clock is perfect," I confirmed. "Thank you for arranging everything, Laurel. It means a great deal to me." We spoke for a few more minutes, discussing the details of the transfer, the future of the farm, Laurel's quiet competence, her genuine love for the land, filled me with a sense of peace I hadn't felt in a long time. Later that day, as I walked through the orchard, the scent of ripening apples heavy in the air, I thought about Evan. He would call again, of course, his desperation mounting with each passing hour. He'd want answers, explanations, perhaps even apologies. He wouldn't get any. He had to learn his lesson, understand the value of hard work and responsibility. This, I knew was the only way to protect the legacy, to ensure that the land, my land, would be cherished and cared for, not squandered on frivolous vacations and fleeting pleasures. The setting sun cast long shadows across the fields, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. A new chapter was beginning, one where the future of the farm and my own peace of mind were finally secure. I smiled, a genuine smile this time, not the strained politeness I'd offered Evan. The crisp autumn air filled my lungs, a promise of change, of a new season, a new beginning. The phone buzzed again. I let it go to voicemail. Rain lashed against the study window, mirroring the storm brewing inside me. I stared at the credit card statements spread across my mahogany desk, each transaction a fresh wound. Evan had promised, hadn't he? Just a small loan, Mother, to tide us over until the business takes off. He'd said Seline, and he needed a break, a chance to recharge before diving into their new venture. Recharge, indeed. 5-star hotels in Santorini, private yacht excursions, designer bout rigging my bank account. More like. I picked up the phone and dialed the number for the bank. "This is Mrs. Caldwell," I said, my voice calm despite the turmoil within. "I need to freeze all supplementary cards linked to my account, effective immediately." The customer service representative on the other end stammered something about needing authorization from the primary cardholder. "I am the primary cardholder," I stated firmly, "and these charges are unauthorized." There was a brief pause, then a meek, "Certainly, Mrs. Caldwell. We'll take care of that right away." I hung up, a grim satisfaction settling in. Celine's Instagram feed had been a constant stream of sun-drenched photos, boasting of their luxurious escapades. Living our best lives, she'd captioned a picture of herself lounging by an infinity pool, a glass of champagne in hand. Well, the good life was about to get a dose of reality. A faint buzzing from my desk drawer caught my attention. It was my old, rarely used burner phone, the one I'd kept for emergencies. I flipped it open. "Hello," I answered, my heart pounding. It was Evan. "Mother, there's a problem with our cards," he said, his voice tight with anxiety. "They've been declined everywhere." "What's going on?" I took a deep breath. "Evan," I said, choosing my words carefully, "I've reviewed your recent spending. It seems you've misinterpreted the meaning of loan. Those funds were not yours to squander on frivolous luxuries." There was a stunned silence on the other end. Then Celine's shrill voice erupted in the background. "What do you mean, frozen? We're stranded here. We have reservations. Flights. Perhaps you should have considered the consequences before booking a private helicopter tour of the caldera," I said, my voice laced with ice. "I suggest you find a more economical way to return home. And Evan," I added before he could speak, "we'll be having a serious discussion about your financial management skills when you get back." I hung up, the burner phone clattering back into the drawer. The rain outside had intensified, but the storm within me had begun to subside, replaced by a cold, quiet resolve. This wasn't just about the money. It was about respect, about responsibility. Evan had treated my generosity as an entitlement, and it was time he learned a valuable lesson. He'd always assumed he was entitled to everything, that my wealth would simply flow to him. He'd never shown any real interest in the farm, in the land that had been in our family for generations. He saw it as a source of income, nothing more. Seline, of course, encouraged this attitude. She had no concept of hard work, of the careful stewardship required to maintain a legacy. I opened my laptop and began drafting an email to Branwell, my lawyer. It was time to put my long-term plan into action. I'd been considering it for a while, but Evan's reckless behavior had cemented my decision. The farm, the land, my entire estate needed to be protected and trusted to someone who appreciated its value, someone who would cherish it and nurture it for generations to come. Someone, I realized, like Laurel. She'd spent her childhood summers here, exploring the fields, learning the names of every wildflower, helping me tend the vegetable garden. Even after her family moved away, she'd always kept in touch, visiting whenever she could. She understood the land, respected its history, and shared my vision for its future. I finished the email, outlining my intentions to transfer ownership of the estate to Laurel. I knew it would be a shock to Evan, a complete upending of his expectations. But it was necessary. He needed to understand that true wealth wasn't measured in bank balances, but in the values he held, in the respect he showed for the legacy he was meant to inherit. He needed to understand that the world didn't revolve around his desires, that actions had consequences, and perhaps, just perhaps, this harsh lesson would be the wake-up call he so desperately needed. The rain continued to fall, washing away the dust and grime, leaving the world fresh and clean. I looked out at the fields, imagining Laurel walking through them, her face lit by the same love and appreciation I felt. A small smile touched my lips. The storm had passed, and a new dawn was breaking. Sunlight dappled through the wisteria vines overhead, creating an intricate pattern on the pergola's stone floor. Laurel sat opposite me, a steaming mug of herbal tea cradled in her hands. "I still can't believe they thought they could get away with it," she said, shaking her head. "Spending your money like it grew on trees." I offered a small, tight smile. "Some people never learn," I replied, pushing a folder across the table towards her, "which is why I needed to ensure this would never happen again." Laurel opened the folder hesitantly, her eyes widening as she scanned the contents. This is everything," she whispered, looking up at me with a mix of awe and concern. "The deed to the farm, the house, the trust documents, it's all here." "It is," I confirmed, taking a slow sip of my own tea. The gentle clinking of the porcelain against the saucer felt strangely loud in the otherwise quiet afternoon. "And it's yours now." Laurel's jaw dropped. "Mine," she repeated, her voice barely a breath. "But I don't understand." "Why me?" I reached across the table and placed my hand over hers. "Because I trust you, Laurel," I said sincerely. "You've always respected this land, understood its value. You've seen, firsthand, how Evan and Seline, well, they wouldn't appreciate it. They'd sell it in a heartbeat, build some gaudy monstrosity, and blow the rest on frivolous things." I paused, remembering Celine's dismissive comment about the farmhouse needing serious updating, a stark contrast to Laurel's quiet admiration for its rustic charm. "I've known for a long time," I continued, my voice gaining strength, "that Evan wasn't the right steward for this legacy. He sees money as something to be spent, not cherished. He lacks the foresight, the connection to this land that you possess. I gestured towards the rolling fields stretching beyond the pergola, a vibrant tapestry of green and gold under the summer sun. This land has been in our family for generations. It deserves to be protected, nurtured, not squandered. Laurel was still staring at the documents, her fingers tracing the embossed lettering on the deed. This is an incredible responsibility, she said softly, finally lifting her gaze to meet mine. I don't know what to say. Say you'll take care of it. I replied, my voice unwavering. Say you'll honor the legacy, the history that's woven into the very soil of this farm. A slow smile spread across Laurel's face, replacing the initial shock with a quiet determination. I will, she promised, her voice filled with a newfound strength. I'll protect it, I promise you. I won't let you down. We sat in silence for a few moments, the weight of the decision settling between us like a comforting blanket. The only sound was the gentle rustling of the wisteria leaves in the breeze. So, Laurel said finally, breaking the silence, what happens now? I replied, my voice carrying a hint of steel. We wait. Evan and Seline will be back soon enough. Their credit cards are maxed out, their vacation cut short, and when they return, they'll find a very different landscape awaiting them. I couldn't help a small, satisfied smile. They'd assume they had free rein over my finances, that they could treat my generosity as an entitlement. They were about to learn a very valuable lesson. I've already contacted Branwell, I explained to Laurel, referring to my lawyer. He's prepared all the necessary paperwork. The transfer of ownership is complete. The farm, the house, the trust, it all belongs to you now. Legally, there's nothing Evan can do. Laurel's eyes widened. So, when they come back demanding money, she trailed off, a hint of apprehension in her voice. They'll get nothing. I finished, my voice firm. They'll be met with a locked door and a lawyer's letter. They thought they were entitled to my wealth. They thought they could manipulate me. They were wrong. The sun began to dip below the horizon, casting long shadows across the pergola. The air grew cooler, and a sense of anticipation hung heavy in the air. I knew this was just the beginning. Evan and Celine's return would be dramatic, to say the least. But for now, I felt a sense of peace, a quiet satisfaction knowing that the legacy of my family, the land I cherished so deeply, was finally in safe hands. I have one more thing for you, I said, reaching into my bag and pulling out a small, antique key. This is the key to the old storage shed behind the orchard, I explained. Inside, you'll find something I think you'll appreciate. Laurel took the key, her fingers closing around it tightly. Her eyes met mine, a silent question passing between us. I simply smiled, knowing that the true extent of my plan, the final piece of the puzzle, was still yet to be revealed, and I couldn't wait to see the look on Evan and Celine's faces when they finally understood what they had lost. The crisp morning air felt like a new beginning as I stepped into Branwell's office. Sunlight streamed through the large windows overlooking the town square, a familiar view that today held a different significance. Good morning, I greeted Branwell, my voice steady despite the quiet anticipation churning inside me. He offered a warm smile, his eyes reflecting the gravity of our meeting. Good morning. Everything is prepared, as we discussed, he replied, gesturing towards a thick folder on his mahogany desk. "Excellent," I said, taking the offered seat. "Let's finalize this then, shall we?" Branwell opened the folder, revealing a series of documents, each meticulously marked and tabbed. My gaze lingered on the title page, "Transfer of Estate," and a sense of finality settled over me. This was it, the culmination of years of careful planning and, if I was honest with myself, a touch of quiet resentment. "Just to confirm," Branwell began, his voice professional and precise, "you understand this is an irrevocable transfer of your entire estate, including the house, the farm, and all associated assets." To Laurel, "I understand completely," I affirmed, meeting his gaze directly. There was no hesitation in my voice, no second thoughts. I had made my decision. "And you're confident that Laurel is the right person to manage this responsibility?" he asked, a hint of concern in his tone. "I trust Laurel implicitly," I replied. "She's always shown a deep respect for the land, for the history of this family. She understands the value of preserving it, not exploiting it." Branwell nodded, his expression softening slightly. "That's certainly reassuring to hear. It's clear this land means a great deal to you." He continued to explain the legal intricacies of the transfer, his words washing over me as I replayed the events leading to this moment. Celine's careless remarks about redecorating my home, Julian's condescending comments about old-fashioned farming practices, and Evan's blatant disregard for the careful financial structure I had put in place, it all fueled my resolve. This wasn't just about money. It was about legacy, about respect, about ensuring that what I had worked so hard to build wouldn't be squandered by those who didn't appreciate its value. "So," Branwell said, bringing my attention back to the present, "if you're ready, we can proceed with the signing." I took the proffered pen, its weight feeling surprisingly heavy in my hand. This single act would change everything. It would sever the financial ties that bound me to Evan and his family, freeing me from their constant demands and expectations. It would also ensure that the land, the heart and soul of my family's history, would be protected and cherished for generations to come. With a deep breath, I signed my name on the dotted line, each stroke a deliberate affirmation of my decision. Branwell witnessed the signature, his expression a mixture of respect and perhaps a touch of awe. He knew the full story, the subtle manipulations, and carefully laid plans that had led to this moment. He knew the depth of my disappointment in Evan, the quiet anger I had carried for so long. "Congratulations," he said, handing me a copy of the signed document. "The transfer is complete." I accepted the papers, feeling a sense of liberation wash over me. It was done. My legacy was secure. "Thank you, Branwell," I said, a genuine smile finally gracing my lips. "You've been invaluable through all of this." He returned the smile. "It was my pleasure, and I must say, it's been fascinating to witness." As I left Branwell's office, the sunlight seemed even brighter, the air even fresher. I paused on the steps, looking out at the town square, the familiar buildings now imbued with a new sense of possibility. This chapter of my life was closed, and a new one was just beginning. I wasn't sure what the future held, but I knew one thing: I was free, and I had a feeling Evan and Seline were in for a rather unpleasant surprise when they returned from their extravagant vacation, expecting to find the financial wellspring still flowing freely. They wouldn't find a cent. They wouldn't even find me. I had a plane ticket in my purse, a reservation at a quiet seaside cottage, and a newfound sense of peace. Let them wonder where I'd gone, and more importantly, where their money had disappeared to. The next time they heard from me, it would be through Laurel, and I suspected that conversation wouldn't be quite as pleasant as they might have hoped. The sun beat down on the back of my neck, warming the sorrel between my fingers. I plucked a ripe, red tomato from the vine, its skin smooth and taut. Another beauty, I murmured to myself, placing it gently in the wicker basket at my feet. Row after row of tomato plants stretched out before me, heavy with fruit. This small patch of earth, nestled behind the farmhouse, had always been my sanctuary. I ran my hand along the leaves of a nearby plant, their fuzzy texture familiar and comforting. My grandmother planted these first seeds, I said softly, remembering her weathered hands guiding mine, teaching me the rhythms of the earth. She'd be proud of how they've thrived. The thought of my grandmother, a woman of quiet strength and unwavering resolve, brought a faint smile to my face. Her spirit felt present here, in the gentle rustle of the leaves, the warmth of the sun, the rich scent of the earth. A bee buzzed lazily past my ear, reminding me of the delicate balance of nature, the interconnectedness of all things. I thought of Evan and Seline, stranded on their extravagant vacation, their world of luxury abruptly halted. They thought money grew on trees. I whispered, a touch of irony in my voice. They'll learn. I picked another tomato, its vibrant color a stark contrast to the gnawing emptiness they must be feeling right now. I continued my work, the repetitive motion soothing my troubled mind. Each tomato I picked felt like a small victory, a tangible reminder of the things that truly mattered: hard work, resilience, and the enduring power of the land. The legal documents were signed, the arrangements were made. Branwell, my lawyer and trusted friend, had assured me everything was in order. "It's your right," he'd said, his voice firm and reassuring. "You've worked hard for everything you have." His words echoed in my mind, strengthening my resolve. I straightened up, my back aching slightly, and surveyed my small kingdom. The tomato plants, laden with their ruby jewels, stood tall and proud, a testament to the care and attention I'd poured into them. This land, this farm, had been in my family for generations, and it will stay that way, I said aloud, the conviction in my voice startling a nearby robin. I carried the basket of tomatoes back to the farmhouse, the weight of them grounding me, anchoring me to the present. The cool air inside the house was a welcome respite from the afternoon sun. I placed the basket on the kitchen counter, the smooth granite cool against my fingertips. The silence of the house felt different now, no longer empty, but filled with a sense of purpose. I washed the tomatoes, their skins glistening under the running water. I thought of Laurel, my friend and confidant, who shared my love for this land, my respect for its history. "She'll understand," I murmured, picturing Laurel's bright smile, her genuine enthusiasm for the farm. "She'll know what to do." Laurel had always been a good listener, a keen observer, and a passionate advocate for preserving the natural beauty of our community. I began to slice the tomatoes, their sweet aroma filling the kitchen. I'd make a simple salad, a celebration of the earth's bounty, a celebration of a new beginning. The phone rang, jarring me from my thoughts. I hesitated, a flicker of apprehension passing through me. It could be Evan, pleading, demanding, raging. Or it could be Seline, her voice dripping with feigned concern, attempting to manipulate me with crocodile tears. I let it ring. I wasn't ready to face them yet. Not today. Today, I was tending to my own garden, nurturing my own spirit, rebuilding my own world. The phone continued to ring, its insistent chime a reminder of the storm brewing just beyond the horizon. But here, in the quiet sanctuary of my kitchen, surrounded by the fruits of my labor, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't experienced in a long time. The tomatoes, vibrant and bursting with life, offered a silent promise of a brighter future, a future where the land would be cherished and protected, where the legacy of my grandmother would continue to thrive. I picked up a slice of tomato, its juice running down my fingers, and savored its sweet, earthy flavor. It was a taste of victory, and it was delicious. The ringing stopped. The silence that followed felt heavy, pregnant with unspoken words, unanswered questions. But I was no longer afraid. I had made my decision, and I knew, with a certainty that settled deep in my bones, that I had made the right one. Sunlight streamed through the kitchen window, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. My phone buzzed on the countertop, a persistent, irritating hum. I picked it up, expecting it to be Laurel, but it was Evan. Mom, his voice, strained and tight, crackled through the speakerphone. What the hell is going on? Seline and I are stranded. Our cards are declined. Are you trying to embarrass me? He paused, his breathing ragged. Call me back, now. The voicemail ended abruptly, leaving a silence heavier than the summer air outside. I set the phone down, a small, tight smile playing on my lips. He thought he could waltz off to some extravagant resort, draining my accounts without a second thought. He'd learned nothing. I poured myself a glass of iced tea, the clinking of the ice a sharp counterpoint to the simmering anger in his voice. Years of careful planning, of subtle control, were finally bearing fruit. He thought he had access, thought he was in charge, but I had always held the reins. The phone buzzed again, another voicemail from Evan. Mom, answer the damn phone, we're stuck here. Celine's furious. I need to know what's happening. His voice was laced with panic now, the bravado gone. It was almost satisfying, almost. But this wasn't about petty revenge. This was about protecting what I had built, what I had worked for, this land, this farm. It was my legacy, not his playground. I picked up a small, worn wooden box from the counter, its surface smooth from years of handling. Inside, nestled amongst old photographs and faded letters, was the key, not just to the house, not just to the farm, but to everything. The key to ensuring that my legacy would be protected, that it would fall into responsible hands. Hands that understood the value of the land, the weight of history that rested upon it. The phone buzzed a third time. I ignored it. This charade had gone on long enough. He'd made his choices, and now he would face the consequences. I glanced out the window, at the rolling fields stretching out towards the horizon. bathed in the warm afternoon light. This was what mattered. This was what I needed to protect. A car pulled up the long driveway, kicking up a cloud of dust. Laurel. I took a deep breath, composing myself, smoothing down my dress. It was time. Time to set things right. Time to ensure that the future of this land was secure. Laurel entered the kitchen, her face etched with concern. "Everything all right?" she asked, her eyes searching mine. "Everything's fine, Laurel," I replied, a calm settling over me. "Better than fine, in fact." Evans called a few times. "He seems agitated." Laurel chuckled. "I can imagine. You've certainly given him something to think about." "Indeed," I said, opening the wooden box and retrieving the key. "I believe this belongs to you now." Laurel's eyes widened. "But I don't understand. I've amended the trust." "Laurel," I explained, my voice steady and clear. "Everything, the house, the farm, the land, it's all yours now." She stared at me speechless, the key trembling slightly in my outstretched hand. "I can't," she began, but I cut her off. "You can, and you will," I said firmly. "You've shown a deep respect for this land, a genuine understanding of its importance. You're the only one I trust to protect it, to nurture it, to ensure its future." Tears welled up in Laurel's eyes. I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," I replied, placing the key in her hand. "Just take care of it. That's all I ask." She clutched the key tightly, her fingers closing round it as if it were a lifeline. "I will," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "I promise you, I will." We stood there for a moment, a silent understanding passing between us. The buzzing of my phone broke the spell. I glanced at the screen. Another voicemail from Evan. I silenced the phone, a sense of finality settling over me. He could rant and rave all he wanted. It didn't matter anymore. The future was secure. The land was safe. I turned back to Laurel, a genuine smile spreading across my face for the first time in days. So I said, "Shall we take a walk? I believe there are some new tomato plants that need tending too." Laurel nodded, her eyes shining. "Yes," she said, her voice filled with a newfound strength. "Let's." As we walked out into the sunshine, I knew I had made the right decision. The land was in good hands. And Evan, well, he would learn a valuable lesson about entitlement, about respect, and about the true meaning of legacy. Sunlight streamed through the kitchen window, catching the dust motes dancing in the air. My phone buzzed on the countertop, the insistent vibration a counterpoint to the quiet hum of the refrigerator. I knew it was Evan. It had been buzzing intermittently for the past 2 days, ever since their lavish vacation had come to an abrupt, and for them, unexpected halt. "He'll be furious," Laurel had said, a wry smile playing on her lips. "But you did what you had to do." I glanced at the phone again. It buzzed insistently, then fell silent. "Let him stew," I murmured, picking up a ripe tomato from the bowl on the table. It was warm from the sun, the skin smooth and taut. I sliced it, the juice running onto the wooden cutting board, the scent earthy and familiar. This farm, this land, had been in my family for generations, and I would be damned if I let Evan squander it away on frivolous trips and designer handbags for Seline. The memory of their departure still stung. The casual way Seline had tossed her designer luggage into the back of the SUV, the way Evan had practically preened, boasting about the five-star hotel they'd booked. "Don't worry, Mom," he'd said, his tone condescending. "We'll bring you back a souvenir." I had simply smiled, a tight, controlled smile that hid the simmering anger within. They had no idea of the carefully laid plans, the legal documents, the quiet conversations with Bramwell, my lawyer, that had been taking place behind the scenes for months. They thought they were entitled to my wealth, to my legacy. They were wrong. I took a bite of the tomato, savoring the sweet, tangy flavor the lamb provided. It always had, and it would continue to provide. But not for them. Not anymore. My phone buzzed again. I ignored it. The buzzing stopped. Then a text message alert chimed. I didn't bother to look. I knew what it would say: please, demands, accusations, perhaps even threats. Let them come. I was ready. The front door opened, and Laurel stepped inside, a warm breeze swirling in with her. "He called me," she said, her voice calm, even amused. "Seemed stranded." I didn't respond, simply continued slicing another tomato. "He says their credit cards are declined. The hotel is threatening to throw them out." Laurel leaned against the counter, watching me. "He's blaming you." Of course, I echoed, a small smile finally breaking through. This was exactly as planned. Evan had always relied on my generosity, my willingness to bail him out of his self-inflicted financial woes. He had never learned the value of hard work, the satisfaction of earning something for himself. He had always expected everything to be handed to him on a silver platter, and for too long I had indulged him. But no more. Let him learn a valuable lesson, I said, placing the sliced tomatoes on a plate. Laurel nodded. Bramwell called. "Everything is finalized." She paused, her gaze meeting mine. "He's transferring the deeds today." My heart swelled with a mixture of sadness and satisfaction. It was done. The farm, the land, my entire estate was now securely in Laurel's hands. She understood the land, respected it. She had spent years learning its rhythms, its secrets. She would protect it, nurture it, just as I had. And unlike Evan, she wouldn't squander it. The phone buzzed again. This time, I let it ring, and ring, and ring. The sound became almost comical, a desperate cry in the otherwise peaceful kitchen. Finally, it stopped. A moment of silence hung in the air, broken only by the chirping of crickets outside. Then another buzz, another ring. I glanced at Laurel, a shared understanding passing between us. We both knew this was only the beginning. Evan would rage. He would threaten. He would try everything in his power to regain access to the money he believed was rightfully his. But he would fail, because this time I was prepared. This time I had won. "I'm going to make some tea," I said, turning towards the stove. The scent of mint and chamomile filled the air, a soothing balm against the lingering tension. Laurel pulled out 2 mugs from the cupboard. "You know," she said softly, "he really thought he had you fooled." I chuckled, a genuine laugh this time, light and free. He thought I was just a doddering old woman, easily manipulated. I poured the steaming tea into the mugs, the fragrant steam rising between us like a promise. He underestimated me. He underestimated us both. We sat at the kitchen table, sipping our tea, the afternoon sun warming our faces. The phone remained silent, for now, but I knew it wouldn't be long before the storm erupted again. Let it come, I thought, a quiet resolve settling within me. I was ready. I had protected my legacy. I had secured the future of the land. And in doing so, I had finally found my own peace. The farm was safe, and that was all that mattered.